Oh, okay.
Why do you twist it? I like being able to see the camera.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, now you guys can see everything clearly.
Oh, I can see myself.
Yeah, not even where I put it though. Whoops.
Yeah.
Sorry, live folks.
Oh,
Please pardon adjustments.
Towards the whole
was the
room,
wrong thing.
or?
Well, so we're trying to get it's for you guys because
Cool.
we switch back and forth between, but it's just the
I messed
audience
up.
know
Whoops.
on Facebook that we're going live.
Hello, Facebook.
What's up, guys?
All right.
Yeah, we-
I think that's enough adjustments.
Alright.
Sure. I mean, if you know what, I was gonna say turn it just a little bit this way, and then you'll get the.
You got all of them? Yeah, you're on the
you
shot.
got- yeah, we're all.
Boom.
Why is this so slow? Alright, whatever.
We on the air yet? Or?
No, the red lights will.
Yeah.
Come on.
Is it right?
Yeah.
Right here.
So we're
When this
fading out the
turns
song.
red.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That's sweet.
Okay, and the last song you guys heard was, or two songs rather, were
Yes.
Until I Wake, which was the spoopy one.
The
and
what?
then spoopy. It was a little spoopy. It was okay.
Spoopy?
I'm sorry, I'm a professional. I shouldn't
Spoopy.
say spoopy. It was.
Is that what the kids are saying
it was
now?
a little ambient, you know. There was some
Yeah.
kind of slightly little scary undertones in
Mhm.
there. Until I Wake.
Yeah,
And
those are
then-
some better adjectives.
And
Those are some real words.
Thank you, Dan. Well, spoopy's just more fun. All right, it's just fun. And then the next one
Just
was
makes me
Corner
feel
Store.
old.
Same.
You are old, Dan.
I know.
Anyway, those both were by Miracle
Back in my day, people said rad and cool and dude and...
You still say dude. Anyway,
Nobody
any
says
hoodles,
rad
Mirabelle,
anymore.
we love you. You're great. Those are great songs, and we just had to spin them before.
Yes.
While we were transitioning into our next guests, which happen to be people who have released a 5-minute short film, and it's actually pretty deal. So, can we introduce people from the Black Knight Studios? We got from right to left, maybe?
Hi, my name is Sandra Jachitsa.
And I'm Aaron Wagner. I'm joined here with
Terrell.
Just Terrell.
Terrell
Nice.
Cohen, man. Come on, dude.
Well,
Terrell.
It's a wonderful pleasure to have you guys in the studio with us. We
Pleasure.
don't normally do too much stuff with artists, but since we didn't really have time to plan out a whole Chicago like voices
No,
segment.
it's just us being new year,
No?
new
All right,
things.
all right. Well, okay, fine.
It
There you
wasn't.
go.
It wasn't us dropping the ball on anything.
No.
We're perfect.
Well, anyway, I wanted to bring in somebody who wasn't a musician for a month of February or for January rather, and we started talking with Aaron about this film that you guys produced, which is Framed, and it was a very cute like animated short film, and I was curious, it grabbed my attention, and curious to hear about like the whole process of what went behind the scenes into creating this. So maybe we can just start with, what is the film for people who haven't seen it yet? What's the basic plot?
Want to bring up the plot, Sandra?
Oh, definitely. The film is about a 12-year-old boy named Billy the Kid who randomly walks up to his backyard and finds a skull that comes back to life to avenge a murderer, and he must now travel to Trail's Dust in order to avenge a murder and confront the murderer who murdered and framed Cole Higgins, who hasn't been able to rest in peace. So
It's a murder story.
Yes.
5 minutes murder mystery.
Exactly.
Sounds a little western too.
It
It
is.
is, because Dan hasn't seen it yet. It is 100%
I suck.
Western, which, again, kind of, I guess,
Wait,
leads me to Billy the Kid is totally,
The song.
right,
wasn't-
it's a song,
that was a
but
song,
it
right?
was an outlaw, too, Billy
Yeah.
the Kid.
yes,
Ah,
so,
yes,
Right.
there it
Hey,
is.
That's
There
why
it
I
is.
got inspired by the name.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I knew there was a connection somewhere.
So it's a really fun little 5-minute murder mystery, and you mentioned, like, we just talked about Billy the Kid, right? So what was the inspiration behind making it a Western in the first place, I guess?
I always found that, like, the outfits, I was really inspired by the character designs or just how people in the Old West dress, and I always found it very interesting, and always with the gunfighting, that was always, that somehow motivated, and throw in the spirit aspect too, and I found that would be an interesting thing to combine.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned character designs, though. Were you initially just drawing Western style clothing, and that's kind of led you to the idea of the story, or where does that come from?
It came from a lot of sources. So first one came from just drawing the clothing from the Western. I found the 19th century, the old school clothing was very interesting. And I was like the cowboy hats, like the long trench coats that always like fascinated me overall. And I just like sketched them out, and I would draw also the skulls too, and somehow the two just combined together.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, didn't you also mention, you mentioned this to me before, that what age was it when you like drew in a sketchbook Cole?
Oh yeah, when I drew Cole.
He was just a character.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was sitting in my college dorm room. I think it was on Halloween actually, back in 2015, and I was just sketching, and I just found this picture on Pexels or like some Shutterstock image, and I found, oh, this is really cool, like the skull and stuff. And I just drew him, and then I made him like some weird floating blob thing, and I was like, okay, and then it was stuck in my sketchbook. And then around the same time I also was in the graphic design course, where I did draw a guy with a cowboy hat, which actually eventually inspired Billy years down the road, and somehow the two got
so just basically like your sketchbook is your ideas book, essentially, right? And you kind of were going back and flipping through for inspiration. But how did all this kind of come to a head? How did these sketches then turn into a film? What were the steps going into?
Well, I would probably, I guess, I'd like to also pivot, I guess as far as the film itself, before it was a film, it was a storyboard, like an animated storyboard, I would
it was an animatic.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to ask, though, is what was the tipping point, right?
So
from writing just drawings and stuff to actually deciding, hey, let's make a movie out of this part.
I would probably say from when I saw Sandra was, we worked for a company doing like performance wear and like stuff for marching band and color guard. And long story short, time to time Sandra would show me some of her sketches. I as well, I'm an illustrator and graphic designer, and so we would go back and forth with what projects were going on, and she showed me one of her storyboard projects called Framed, and I was like, oh, let me take a look at this. And it was just very minimal animation, but mostly a storyboard with text at the bottom. And I said, wow, this is really cool, Sandra. Like, have you ever thought about making this into an animated short? And she's like, I don't really, this was just an apprenticeship video that I was hoping to send to Disney to then become a, possibly an apprenticeship program at Disney Studios. And then I was like, well, why don't you, like, to reach out to an animator, if you got some cash laying around, and we could get voiceovers, and then it just kind of came to Sandra, let's try this out. So we got the voiceovers together. She kind of refined the storyboard, added a few scenes, cut some of the script a little bit, made it so it would fit within budget. We got an animator after a month or so, then got the voiceovers in, and that was an experience, first time in a recording studio and all that. So that's where things started to fall into place.
Because I feel like for many artists, especially people who I know, it'd be kind of like a dream, right, to create something of your own that's either animated or like a kind of like a movie format. But how did you guys go about finding an animator? Was that itself a difficult process, or?
Oh yeah, it was definitely.
How does that really work? 'Cause, I mean, I'm coming from a music standpoint. I have no idea how any of this works, right?
Yeah.
So how does that work? Finding an animator to take on a project.
I want to say, I don't mean to like totally, I guess switch gears as far as between me and Sandra, but I know Sandra she wasn't a huge user on Facebook, so I'll put it that way. So what I did is I went on Facebook, went into 2D animation, went into Chicago animations group, motion graphics groups, all over Facebook, just trying to find an animators group. Came across a 2D animation group, and said, hey, we're looking for an animator for this film. I sent a leak to Sandra's sort of storyboard, and I was getting hit like with private messages from different animators, and this one guy.
As you think, then I guess.
Right,
Just, if you go on.
Right, and you just kind of post it on different places, and eventually people will come. Well, this gentleman he goes by Good Walker on Facebook, but he goes by Pascal Ricky in person. We were a little unaware that he was actually going to work out, because mysterious people come before you and say, "Hey, I'm interested," and so I found Good Walker. He sent me, I guess, long story short, he was a South African refugee who moved to Seattle to aspire being an animator and an entrepreneur, and he sent me his Jabu Jungle, which ended up being a 5-season animation that he worked with members of an educational group on PBS, or a South African version of PBS that did an educational program called Jabu's Jungle, and he showed us all that project work, and we were really impressed. And I said, "Hey Sandra, would you like to give this guy a shot?" And so lo and behold, we sent him the storyboard, she sent him the script, and we got a little clip, and that's where it started to get him enrolled in the process.
So Sandra, putting a question to you, since we don't have a whole lot of time for this interview, unfortunately, what are some key points that you want people who are going into this to take away from? Is this for entertainment purposes just, or I don't know, are you planning on making more of these types of films, or what's something that people can expect from the artistic animation standpoint?
Ooh, first things first, don't expect to be super popular, especially if you're starting out and no one knows. You gotta build up a following or build up a fan base, and of course takes a lot of time. You have to make sure you're very dedicated to the craft. There's many times where it's okay, you know what, this is not gonna work out, or you're gonna think. Do not give up. Basically, you cannot give up on if you're going to pursue something, either commit to it or not. That's one thing I learned in the process is once I start, I'm going to go all in, and then of course just keep pushing it and just come up with new content. I do plan on creating right now another short called Stolen Pizza, but afterwards I want to move into doing small little shorts of Joel and Tusk, and then eventually I want to move into a whole TV series. It's a whole TV animated series called Stranger's Sword.
Oh, so you already have a whole plan.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I have plans. I've already started working on them. So, and then networking, and also make sure to network and meet new people. You make sure who can support you, who can work with you to lift the weight off your shoulders. Don't make the most important thing out of this whole takeaways and advice for anyone else is don't do it all by yourself.
Try to reach out within your friends and build a connection between what you have versus what's out there. Try to start within and then build assets out.
Right.
Sure. And why should people check out this film in particular, the one that's just released, in your opinion?
Oh, I think there's something totally brand new. I haven't seen any there hasn't been much there has been not a lot. There's been a shortage of 2D animation. I mean, there's still a lot of 2D animation. I think that because everything is now 3D, but I said, hey, why not do a 2D? And also not a lot of Western has been around, so because Western has been more popular in the 60s, but now it's not. Now maybe it could have a comeback, or it's just something to kind of get nostalgia back.
I would probably say to you see that a lot of Western in, let's say, live action. You've seen various ways, 10 Ways to Die, 100 Ways to Die in the West, and you've seen that Leonardo DiCaprio movie where he's the little kid as a Western kid, and I think as far as the premise of the film, what makes it unique is that this is a guy who was clearly innocent, trying to come back from the dead and get back revenge, but it's not so much revenge, but as far as this this is we're in a time of 2020, especially like 2019 and 2018. We're in this revolution of people speaking up and saying, I'm not going to deal with this, with people knowing me as this person, but knowing me as the truth. And there's many people out there being framed for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
And now the people who are innocent are coming forward and saying, here's my story. And whether it's dead or alive, is what this story has to tell.
Cool. And do you guys plan on focusing on, I mean, you alluded to this a little bit, Sandra, but plan on focusing more on kind of like shorts and stuff like that. I guess, is this something that is more suited for kids, or is it something that like all people of all ages can enjoy, or?
Oh, I'm gearing it towards more like teenagers and young adults.
Okay. Cool. Just because I don't think we've actually talked about the age range.
Yeah.
No, it's not for kids.
Right.
Adult Swim is a perfect example.
Watch it too. I mean, adults can enjoy it too, but not like 5-year-olds or anything.
Okay.
13 plus, 14
Nice,
plus.
nice. And what are the other plans do you guys have surrounding the release of Frame? So it's on YouTube now.
Right.
What
Yes.
else are you planning on doing with the film?
Well, I've entered a lot of film festivals, and actually, I want to say that I just got accepted. The film just got accepted into the Real Cinema Film Festival, which is in Lombard, Illinois, and it's on April 26th. It's on April 26th, and then we're having not a casting, like a film screening with two other filmmakers, and we're still figuring out the locations and stuff for that. So we're doing that in April.
So there's a lot to come as far as like, you know, obviously when you release a film, I think most people figure, put it on YouTube or what have you and just release it one day and that's it. When you want to draw some type of buzz and get your name out there, it's really important to just use this product and market as much as possible, and not for the short term, but for the long term, because you look at films, they take years to make, months or 4 years to make when it comes to animation. You want that pride that you put into that film, putting it into the marketing is another step that's important to take. And so we hope that entering into these film festivals, that it will start a buzz outside of our state and maybe lead into something bigger.
Nice.
She even said maybe it would be cool that Netflix picks it up and wants to do a series.
That's what I plan to do, and I plan on creating this YouTube channel into a full 2D in-house studio.
Nice. Cool.
So,
Very cool. Very
Best of
ambitious.
luck with all that.
There's so many like parallels with their story and musicians' stories.
Right.
yeah.
Cool.
It's
The artist.
all artists have the same path, really.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. No matter what medium you take, for sure. And people want to find out more about like the studio or any of your guys' projects. Where can they find you on social media?
Go first.
Sure. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. That's where I'm most active. And you can also find me on TikTok. You can just type in my full name, Sandra Rzeczyca, which is spelled at RZECZYCA. But the best way to reach me or find me is Black Knight Studio.
Nice.
And I would say, so as far as myself, you could find me on Wagner_Aaron on Instagram handle, or you can find me through Facebook or LinkedIn at Aaron Scott Wagner with 2 A's, Aaron, as they call me. And with my partner here, Terrell Cohen, we're a company called Dreamcatcher Design, which we aspire to bring on the show Underbelly Hours at some point. We designed the poster and the logo for the project Framed, and we're hoping that we can continue that relationship with Sandra and also with other filmmakers down the road.
They're currently doing the branding for my student. They're really amazing designers with logos and poster designs. Yeah.
So
I'm gonna shout out to them.
So yeah, check us on me on social media, LinkedIn, etc.
All right. Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for coming on and
Yes,
giving
thank you
us
so
a
much.
bit of a short
Yep,
snippet.
thank you for having
And
us.
Please check out Framed, everybody, by Black Knight Studios. And hopefully we'll have you guys on to talk about other projects soon.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
It would be.
Sure.
All right. So let's Transition over to our final guest of the evening. We got the Weekend Run Club.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Maybe spin a song and maybe talk about a few events and have,
Yeah.
have the band
What song would you like to
join
spin?
us in the studio. Well, you know, I was thinking about this. There's a song called Billy the Kid. And maybe for the podcast
Yeah.
version, we can trade it out for another song that we actually have copyrights to. But, you know, why not?
For on air, we can do whatever we want.
Woo!
This is the
Right.
Marty Robbins version.
I could look it up,
Let's-
Marty Robbins.
Yeah, get the Marty Robbins version.
All right,
It's,
Marty Robbins
it's a short little tune.
version of Billy the Kid. So thank you guys again for coming
Thanks.
on.
Appreciate
and we're
it.
leaving
Thank you for having us.
with Billy the Kid.
Sweet.
All
Billy
right.
the Kid. That's kind of cool.
I didn't know there was a song called Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, I knew I
Right.
saw that somewhere. Because it's on one of my favorite albums by Marty Robbins.
Nice,
This song has
cool.
so many good songs.
All
I've
right.
discovered it because it has one song that was on
You guys
Fallout New
can-
Vegas.
Whoop. Whoop.
All right, let's
Be back.
play this.